Have roots there. My wife told me, she said, oh, it's a great cause. Go up there and have fun, but don't drink the Kool-Aid and don't catch Potomac fever. And I was able to be a congressman for 6 years and not go native up here and remain true to the values. And so I am just an interloper for the night, but I'm ready, be back in the free state of Florida doing what we do. And incidentally, you can stretch these foundation dollars further in Florida than anywhere else. We have not raised tuition at our state university since I've been governor. We have the lowest in-state tuition in the country, about $6,300 a year. You can't even get K-12 private education for that much in most parts of the country now, and we intend to keep it that way. So by all means, any of the families that want to utilize that, we would love to see do that. When I was coming up here, I was thinking about the importance of service and sacrifice and what people that wear the uniform put on the line, and then obviously, most importantly, those that end up giving it all in service to our country. And I came back because we're here and I'm seeing these memorials and everything. I came back to the fact that we're going to have our 250th anniversary as a country next July 4th. And that's something that's very, very meaningful as a citizen of this republic, as the experiment that America represents. But then how does that experiment depend on the people who we honor and the families that you help through your organization? Because I think it's inextricably linked. Now, when I think back to the founding generation, I start off, just as somebody who's in elected office, with a debate that three of them had. It was Thomas Jefferson, Dr. Benjamin Rush, and Benjamin Franklin, and they were debating what was the world's oldest profession. And Dr. Rush, being a doctor, said, the world's oldest profession is a physician. After all, Eve was cut out of the rib of Adam, so it had to have been a doctor. And Thomas Jefferson, who, as many of you know, designed the University of Virginia and other things, said no, the world's oldest profession was the architect, because it was the architect who brought order out of all the chaos in the universe. To which Benjamin Franklin said, no, that's not true. The world's oldest profession is the politician. Who do you think created that chaos in the first place? And you do see that, and in Florida, I know that because I have people move from those areas and tell me why they moved to Florida, and you see that over and over again. And you see a lot of people in office, you see a lot of people that, and I see in these other states that kind of screw things up, but we were, 250 years ago, we were blessed to have a generation that really got things right, or got things more right than anyone had ever through all of human history. And when they came in to do the Declaration of Independence, that was not just like posting, having a couple glasses of wine and posting on social media like hot takes. When they signed their name to that document, they pledged their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. The penalty for failure for them would have been death. There's no question about that. They would not have survived failure. And these are not people that were just ragtag group of folks. They were all very successful and very prominent in the American colonies, but yet they believed that this moment in history called upon them to stand up and be counted. And so we'll celebrate that announcement of independence. Of course, they weren't fully independent until they won the war, and then the creation of a constitution in the next decade. And having looked at all this and having studied it a lot, the one thing that I was so impressed upon me is they didn't just show up to do these things willy-nilly. They studied the history of every republic and the history of mankind. They brought those lessons to them when they, for example, went to Philadelphia to frame the Constitution. But really, when they studied history, they figured out there was really only one thing that all these republics had in common throughout human history, and it was this. Every single one of them had failed. And so they really believed it fell to the United States of America to determine, can people really govern themselves? Can you have a society based on the idea that our rights are endowed by God, not granted to us by the government? Can you have a rule of law rather than the rule of the whims of individual men? Or is mankind forever destined to live under various forms of despotism? And they believed then, and I think it's true now, ultimately the United States of America would answer that question about whether people could really govern themselves. Now, they declared independence, which was bold. They win a war against the top power in the world, which was improbable victory. Then they create a constitution where there's all these different sectional differences and all these different political differences, and they hammer that out. And so when the ink's drying on that, Benjamin Franklin walks out of that convention and he's asked, Dr. Franklin, did you give us a republic or a monarchy? And his answer is very telling, because he said a republic only if you can keep it. Because they understood you can have the best Declaration of Independence in the world, you can have the best Constitution in the world. These things do not run on autopilot. They require every generation of Americans to stand up and defend freedom when it's threatened, and that may mean getting involved as a citizen. That may mean running for political office, and yes, it may mean putting on the cloth of your country, risking your life, and even giving that last full measure of devotion for service to a cause greater than yourself. I'm very much proud that we had that group of men and leaders who were willing to risk their own lives, to be able to articulate these ideas, and then craft a foundation that's given future generations a chance to enjoy success. But I will tell you this, as much as I am a fan of Washington, and in fact, I'm actually for America 250, we've got a number of counties named after founding fathers, so I'm getting statutes commissioned, and we're dropping statutes and all the. I was just in Franklin County, Florida. Very nice, by the way, old Florida, Apalachicola. We brought Ben Franklin there, and he's there. We have Jefferson, we have Washington, we have all this stuff. So I'm a huge, huge fan. But I will tell you this, every time I come to Washington, D.C., you come into Reagan Airport, and a lot of times you'll do a pretty cool route where you get to see all of these great monuments to these great leaders. And it's not even about the men as much as about the ideas that they represent. And so you see the Jefferson Memorial, of course, the tall Washington Memorial, all these different things. And you think, yeah, you know, that gives you a sense of pride as an American. But having done that trip so many times, and as Ambassador Rood mentioned, you know, I am a former member of the U.S. House of Representatives. I have recovered from that experience. It was 6 years, and we got out of Dodge. So I've done that for a long time. And I will tell you this, when you're in that plane coming into Reagan Airport, the best monuments to this country are not found on the National Mall. And when you're looking at that, people are crowding on that left side of the plane. They're looking to see this and that, because all you have to do is look out the right side of the plane. They don't have fancy monuments. They have rolling hills with little headstones covering a place called Arlington National Cemetery. And it occurred to me the first time I saw that trip, and it occurs to me every time since, ultimately, that is the greatest testament to American freedom. I don't care how good your Bill of Rights is. I don't care how good your Constitution is. I don't care how great your Declaration of Independence is. Human nature being what it is, there are times where folks have to put themselves on the line. And for people that serve, and we've got many veterans here, thank you. Anyone who does that is writing a check payable to the United States of America for an amount up to and including that individual's life. You don't know where they're going to send you. You don't know what's going to happen. And it's important to recognize the role, but particularly those who give what Abraham Lincoln called the last full measure of devotion. It is inextricably linked to the vitality of a Republican form of government. We would not be celebrating 250 years as a country if it weren't for people who've been willing and indeed did lay down their lives in service to this country. So what you're doing here is recognizing that ultimate sacrifice in a very profound way. You're also recognizing a fact of life that it's not just the military member who's serving. The spouse is serving too. And it's not easy, and I saw Senator Sheehy, and I know him and his teammates who get sent all over this globe, sometimes at a moment's notice. That is not easy for a family. That is not easy for a spouse. It's not easy for kids. So they're already serving. They're already sacrificing. And then to have the worst news that you can imagine, that yes, your spouse has been killed in action, it's devastating, and it's not easy to pick up from that. What your guys doing is recognizing that we are not going to forget those sacrifices. You can there and do a ceremony and lay them to rest and everything, but you can't just forget. So you are there for people who need you. You are there for folks who deserve the support, and the amount that you've been able to raise is fantastic. I'm proud that we've got a lot of folks in Florida who choose to make it, both active duty. I can tell you as a Navy guy, whenever they would buy a house in Florida and get that Florida residency, they didn't give that up when they PCS'd to California or to Norfolk, I can tell you that. So we're proud of that. We're proud of what we do for veterans, but particularly being willing to recognize the profound sacrifices made by our folks who've been killed in action, and by extension, their families. It is just a great and noble cause that everybody here is involved in. And so on behalf of the people of Florida, everybody here who's sacrificed, everybody here who's suffered a loss, that was meaningful to this country. Those were not losses in vain. Those are integral sacrifices so that free government can be preserved in this world. So thank you all for what you're doing. It's an honor to be here, and God bless everybody.